This is Score on Business.
Hey, welcome to Score on Business. I'm Pete Hendricks. I'm an entrepreneur and your host for today. Also a volunteer for Score. Score wants you to succeed in business, and so please check out the website, which is scorenashville.org. So our first guest today, Dimeta Smith, founder of the full-service accounting firm bearing her name, provides a variety of services for her clients. Services range from bookkeeping to virtual CFO duties, and she works really hard to know her clients so she can provide excellent strategic advice. And thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Such a pleasure.
yeah. So Dimeta, tell us about a client you have helped and what you did for them.
Well, I hope that I've helped many of them.
Yeah.
One recent one that comes to mind is a client that I've worked with for several years who decided they wanted to sell their business. And so they knew ahead of time that they wanted to do so. And we try to be heavily involved in our clients' operations because we understand how important it is and that it affects the accounting and finance piece.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, we want to be your accounting department, which is what we do. So we were actively involved in planning and the process leading up to the sale, which allowed them to identify opportunities to improve, how to increase the value of the business before the sale, and anticipate any tax implications of the gain on the sale. And so as a result, when they made that actual move, they were able to do really well and make more investments. So,
well, if you go to sell the business and the books aren't clean and you know, nice and tidy, you're not going to get as much.
No, it's just like when you get ready to sell your house, you don't stop cutting your grass.
Right. Yeah, and then also, you know, there will be the tax implications, which is something that you do. And then, but also you work with companies that are going concerns, and you have a staff, so for the kind of the bookkeeping type duties, you'll take care of that, and then you do more of the virtual CFO and strategic planning and tax planning and
typically accountants are on the back end. Most people expect us to be reactive. We historically keep up with things and report the finances, but we like to be more proactive. We want to be a part of your team so that you anticipate the outcomes and the things that you do leading up to that point you already are aware of. So if you have a bookkeeper and office manager that's actually keeping track of your records, you know, we will support them by training them, but also educating them on the implications of the operations. So ultimately, accountants, tax preparers, and planning, those services come with us because you get a team. Of course, everybody in our staff has an accounting degree, and many of us are well experienced in tax, financial planning. So we can also provide support not just for the business, but for the business owners, because ultimately this is their dream, and we want to make sure that they're able to do the things that allow them to be happy. So
that makes a lot of sense.
It's bigger than accounting for us. It's bigger than the numbers. Okay,
so you touched on this a little bit. A lot of companies have an office manager doing the books, or maybe a bookkeeper. How does a full-service CPA firm like yours add value there?
Yeah, we add value because, of course, most bookkeepers or office managers aren't really trained in generally accepted accounting principles, nor the tax rules and regulations. And so our firm is required to get a certain number of CPE every year. And then with that, to maintain our licenses and to make sure that we are on top of things, you know, the software, the rules and regulations, and then, of course, the ethical standards. We are able to then come in and support and train, again, that staff to make sure that what they're doing is going to ultimately result in the way the business owners would expect. So we just want to be a part of the team. And then when there are things like deciding, the owner wants to look at adding a new line of business or adding a new piece of equipment, and doing the financial analysis on that. That's really something more that
takes your skill set.
Absolutely. We do a lot of the financial planning for the business and a lot of cost management.
Yeah.
That's the other piece that really comes in handy. A lot of the business owners are, of course, it's easy for them to generate revenue. They can sell a product or a service, but how do you manage that gross profit? How do you manage the net income? You know, are you aware of those things? And we don't want them to be accountants.
Right.
We want to provide them financial information so that they can make really good business decisions.
Make sure, what's the old saying, we're selling at a loss, but we'll make up on volume. You want to make sure that
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. So when you look at companies' small business, what are some of the mistakes you commonly see that should be avoided?
So one thing I tell all of my clients, small businesses do not have to stay small. And if you want to grow and be successful, you have to do everything that the big companies are doing. So those policies and procedures, the controls, making sure that your operations are in line for growth, you have to start that day one. So a lot of people will say, well, we can't really afford an accountant now, and I'm saying you can't afford not to have a really good accountant on the front. It is, and it's an investment in your business. If you want to grow, you have to have a team around you that's going to help make that happen.
Talk a moment about controls. Those are really, you said that word like in the middle of the sentence, but it's really important. Talk about that.
It's very important, especially when a business owner has to move from being the senior consultant, if you will, or the salesperson to being a CEO. And all of the time, you will find that because they were doing it themselves, there were just things that they could trust themselves with. But as you grow and hire new people, you need to have controls in place that will ultimately protect your assets, your operations. And so the controls actually ensure that your financial outcomes are the best that they could possibly be.
It's always heartbreaking to hear about a smaller business where the trusted employee had been, you know, stealing money, all that time.
And most of the time it isn't intentional, it's just lack of knowledge, lack of training, because they can only do so much. But that's where you want a team of experts to come in and at least help create the process for you, so then you can manage against it, and you can make sure that, you know, your assets and ultimately your financial outcomes are exactly the way you would expect them to be. Yeah.
Well, why don't we take a break, and we'll come back and talk more. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Okay.